I am joined by parenting expert Sue Atkins, and it's time for Talking Health. This section of the show, as always, is devoted to answering any questions that you might have. And today, we're hoping to answer your questions on how do you feed a fussy child. There's lots of them out there. 0207 862 2222 is the number. Now, I said that there's lots of them out there. How common is a child being a fussy eater? How common are they?
Very common, and certainly during the toddler years, because they're asserting their independence. So sometimes the only way they can do that is make a funny face, or they don't want that, or I'm not touching this. So that's part of it. Half of it is really you relaxing. Make mealtime fun and enjoyable. Don't feed into, sorry about the pun, didn't mean to.
That's all right, we like them here.
Don't feed into the anxiety by the look and the anxious and standing over them and making them eat it. All of that is setting it up to fail, because it's all becoming tense and it becomes a battle.
So what are the... Well, you've said tense and inserting their authority or asserting their independence. What's the root cause of fussy eating? Is it that the child's just learning their powers and the effect that they can have on you, like a form of manipulation?
A little bit sometimes, but other things is, remember, they've never been on the earth before. They haven't tried beetroot, or they haven't tried, mashed potato or something. And they will have preferences, of course. A lot of children don't like the textures of things, particularly children on the spectrum. They don't like it if it tastes sort of strange, or they haven't seen it before, or they don't like the look of the colour, or you've put it on a different plate. So without getting too, tense about it yourself, just try things. Be more relaxed is the secret. As soon as you relax and make mealtime an enjoyable experience, you introduce things in small quantities. Most parents pile new stuff on and they go, oh, what's that? Lick it, touch it, smell it, just have a taste of it, a little teaspoon of it, and then carry on and all of that. And also model it. If you eat it, they'll eat it. Don't start this business where you cook something for them and then something for you and then something for somebody else, hiding to nothing. So it's a balance. But basically relax and make mealtimes an enjoyable thing. And if they really don't eat it after a while, just take it away and offer it again, because there's pieces of research that say 15 times, some say 11. But the message is see it a few times.
And in general, how long are you leaving it between attempts?
Again, common sense a lot of this time, so don't force it the next meal or the next day necessarily. When you're cooking it again next week or whenever it is, offer it again in a small quantity. Maybe bring round a friend that you're all eating together. They see somebody else touching it, eating it, liking it, and they get familiar with it. And so, then they will eventually try all sorts of things.
Now, we've got lots of food here, and you mentioned some children have an issue with textures of food. What kind of foods in particular seem to be a bit of a sticking ground for parents and children?
Well, I suppose I don't want to lead it really and go, oh, don't try that then. Because if it sometimes gets stuck in the roof of their mouths and they don't quite like that feeling of, lasagna or something that you might be cooking. So a little bit with them, let them sort of ease themselves into it, be guided by what they do like, but don't just always give them chicken nuggets, because that's what they always have. Look at different ways of cooking it. So if they do quite like an egg, scramble it. If they like bread, well, add different things, a bit of ham to it, small little things, put familiar food that they do like, perhaps with a new food, a small bit of it, so they're just sort of experimenting. Get them growing tomatoes or outgrowing cress, or going shopping with you, or chopping and cutting and cooking with you.
Helping out.
Everything becomes more natural.
So I have an 8-month-old and we've just started the weaning process. He doesn't seem to be a fussy eater yet.
Well, don't make him one.
Because every time I say that to a mum with a toddler, they're like, well, my baby wasn't a fussy eater either until he got to 2. So I'm waiting for that moment. But he's already displaying something that I'm not sure whether it is normal. But if I feed him something new, I think we might have some footage of this. So this is beetroot I'm giving him for the first time. He's quite excited to try something new. And then he puts it in his mouth and then he makes this face. Now, does that mean he doesn't like it? He doesn't like the initial taste? When I go back for a second, he'll take the second mouthful of it and he'll normally eat quite a bit. But I don't know whether I'm just feeding him stuff he doesn't like.
No, because you'd certainly know if he didn't like it. He would spit it out, or he'd cry, or he'd... Also, it's new, isn't it? So it's like, what's that? So again, they watch us all the time. They learn from us, our reactions. So if you suddenly go, are you all right? Then they know, oh, God, that's anxious. I get attention from it. Just be relaxed, have it, trust him if he likes it. He seemed to like it, had another bit.
He genuinely did, and it actually worked out well. But is there anything we can be doing even from those early stages to try and make sure that we stop the fussy eating coming into play?
Yeah, it's because mums and dads need to relax. Make mealtime enjoyable and fun. Don't get tense before it. Do it when everybody's hungry as well. Sometimes they're giving meals when children are not quite hungry enough. Also, remember, I don't know about you, but some days I eat more than I do the next day. So children are normally like that. They never really run out of nutrients. They tend to find what they need to eat over a period of a week.
Okay.
And if you have problems with, tummy upsets and all of that, then if you're ever worried, go and talk to your doctor about this stuff.
So when they're small, not to worry too much about the 5 a day and making sure they get all the vitamins. Over a week, you're looking at making sure that they get enough of all the vitamins.
And of course, we're all mindful we need to be eating healthy things. So chop up a great big, or not a great big if they're tiny, a little bowl of fruit and have it sitting on the table. It's sort of like you can pick at it. That's healthy. You're getting into the habit of eating healthily rather than picking at sweets or waiting for crisps. And don't do what my friend did, and she's probably not watching this at the moment. He didn't eat his dinner, and then a half an hour extra, he's hungry, have some crisps. Because that's rewarding, not what you really want to teach them long term. You are trying to teach them long term how to grow up and enjoy food and not have issues with it when they're teenagers and things.
OK, let's take some calls. Tracy from Essex, you're up first. What's your question for Sue?
So I've got 4-year-old twins, and my boy twin has just started eating nothing but like processed meat. So he won't eat fruit, vegetables. If he has a sandwich, he'll take the ham out and just get the bread. And he's on Laxido because he does have tummy troubles anyway. And his sister seems to be following suit now. She won't eat very much.
So she's copying now?
Yeah.
What would your advice be? That must be very stressful for a parent.
It is, yes, I can understand that because it's a change as well. And then you go, oh, gosh, what's happening? See things as phases. My father still said I was in a phase when I was 40. It is a phase. If you see it in the bigger picture, keep offering all the variety. Don't get too anxious about it. And eventually they'll both come through that phase of where they eat healthily because you just offer a variety of healthy foods alongside the treats now and again.
What about putting like mashed potato or something in the meat like rolled up and trying to disguise it? Does that work?
Well, then the long-term thing is, what do they learn from that? That you're sort of you're playing with it, you're cheating and you're putting it in there. I mean, there's loads of wonderful things on Pinterest, of course, if you've got all the time in the world to make all these wonderful pictures of food. But actually, food is just a healthy thing. It's a sociable event. We still sit down with my kids and they're grown up and enjoy cooking and eating and, the sociability of it. So take the longer-term view on it, I think.
So I hear what you're saying, that it's a phase, but at what point does Tracy think this is now a problem? At what point do you go to the doctor?
Always trust your intuition. Mums and dads really know that well. So if you start to think over a couple of weeks, this isn't getting any better, he's getting grumpy or he's not, not so much energy, always go and chat to a doctor just to be reassured by it, of course.
Tracy, I'm sure, what's your question for Sue?
Hello, good morning, ladies. My little boy is 3, coming up for 4. He is showing signs of autism, and however, he is a very, very picky eater. He eats with his eyes. I've tried lots and lots of different things with him, such as making food times interesting. Instance, mashed potato, broccoli, dinosaur shapes, make him into like a dinosaur plate of entertainment. However, he is still very, very all a case of, if he doesn't like the looks of it, he won't try it, he won't entertain it. Some days, the things that he does really like, then he goes from liking it to refusing it. So generally, it can just be very, very difficult and challenging. You can find yourself making 3 meals a day. And unfortunately, with the way that we are at the moment, I'm like everybody else, and I haven't got endless amounts of money to be spending and wasting on meals. So I'm just looking for any form of advice, really, that I could take away and incorporate into our life to make it easier for both myself and for my little boy Dexter. So anything possible, please.
Can I first of all congratulate you on just the level of production you put into some of these? I mean, it sounded like a whole Pizza production you had there with the dinosaur. So well done on that front. I mean, that takes a lot of effort.
And with children on the spectrum, you have to have that bigger picture and think about regular meals. They like routines, so always eat at the same sort of time so they understand that. Sometimes even with a child on the spectrum, changing the colour of the plate or the colour of the beaker, that can sometimes help. And it sounds strange, but it is noticing that sort of level of detail that can help them relax around it. But you just keep doing it often and relaxed around it, and don't necessarily go right the way over to, you know, constantly making different food for everyone. But yes, children, it's the texture. So start to keep a little diary actually of what you notice he does like and when, so that you can perhaps then introduce a new food, just a tiny amount, alongside what he already knows. So it's not freaking him out with the change. Children on the spectrum don't like that massive change of things. So just introduce it slowly and gradually.
I quite like the idea of giving the child the sort of responsibility of like maybe picking their own plate or picking their own cup, so that they feel like that's theirs and they're more in charge of it, they have more control
And
over
also
it.
Children on the spectrum quite like the touching of food, the smelling of it, the licking of it, that kind of tactile stuff, all the not the emotions, all the senses, that can help them overcome it. So relax around that. You're doing all the right things. You're doing such a lovely job with him. He'll get through that phase a little bit later.
Yeah,
as well.
you sound like a lovely mum. Just a quick question from me, because you said, you know, don't go into making endless sort of meals. What about some parents take a really hard-line approach of just letting their children go hungry? Is that an advisable approach?
Everything in balance. I'm always finding the balance between that. You don't want to sit for ages and ages. So like over 35 minutes, you're sitting there, come on, eat it, come on, you must eat it, and all of that. That's setting you up for like battles around food, and food isn't pleasurable for anybody then. So after a certain length of time, 15, 20 minutes, depending on their age, you just take it away and offer it again tomorrow. They won't go hungry, they rarely do, and then don't then reward with crisps or biscuits or something just to make it up because you're worried about them. But I remember as a child at school being made to eat Arctic roll, and you'd think I'd like it because I love ice cream and I like cake. The teacher stood there and made me eat it, and I've never eaten it since. So you don't want to set kids up with that.
Bad associations.
Yeah.
We've got a social media question here from Katie on Facebook, who says, my child used to eat whatever you put in front of them until they started school full time and had school dinners. They're now so fussy at meal times, it's a nightmare.
So what's triggered that, I wonder? You know, I wonder what food chat, without being too sort of intense, was it something, the food not very nice at school? Or is it something that they've eaten that he didn't like?
Could it be other children's
around
effect?
them? Yeah, because some other child might be fussy and think, oh, they get a lot of attention when they play up around food at school. I think I'll play up, you know, and this is not all conscious if they're only young, but then look at what's maybe changed. That might help. Look at why, and don't feed into it. Just offer it, you know, go away again and offer it again tomorrow, and be relaxed around it. And then maybe have a chat around it, maybe, you know, relaxed time to find out what's happening at school, so you can work it out and then you can change it a bit.
What I'm taking away from this is just to be more relaxed. Do we have time for another quick call? Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I thought I could sneak it in there. Thank you very much, Sue, for all your help, and thanks for all your calls on this as well. I hope we've helped. We're going to have to move on now after the break.